What if one of the most powerful words ever spoken by Jesus has been hidden in plain sight for nearly 2,000 years? What if this ancient Aramaic command was never intended only for a single miracle recorded in Scripture, but was meant to reveal a spiritual law that continues to operate even today? Most people know the story, yet very few understand the deeper meaning concealed within the original language spoken by Jesus himself. Across the world, millions of people feel as though something in their lives remains closed. Some feel blocked from peace, others from purpose, healing, confidence, clarity, or spiritual direction. They pray, they search, they hope for change, yet they often encounter the same invisible walls standing before them year after year. The question is not whether those walls exist. The question is why they remain there. In the Gospel of Mark, chapter 7, a remarkable event takes place. A man who struggled to hear and speak is brought before Jesus. Rather than performing a public spectacle, Jesus takes him away from the crowd, looks toward heaven, and then speaks a single Aramaic word. What happened next was immediate, undeniable, and life. But what if the physical healing was only the surface of a much greater revelation? What if this ancient word was pointing towards something that affects every human being, regardless of age, culture, or background? What if the real miracle was not simply the opening of ears, but the opening of human consciousness itself? Tonight, we will journey into one of the most fascinating and overlooked teachings connected to the ministry of Jesus. We will explore the hidden depth of Ephphatha, why it was spoken at such a critical moment, and how its meaning may still apply to every person who feels trapped behind limitations they cannot seem to overcome. Stay with me, because before this message ends, you may discover that the door you have been trying to force open was never meant to be forced at all. To understand the true significance of Ephphatha, we must first step into the world where Jesus lived and taught. Too often modern readers approach the gospel stories as simple accounts of supernatural events. Yet for the people who heard Jesus speak, every action, every gesture, and every word carried layers of meaning that extended far beyond the visible miracle taking place in front of them. The account recorded in the gospel describes a man who could barely hear and whose speech was impaired. On the surface, the story appears straightforward. A suffering individual encounters Jesus, receives healing, and experiences restoration. Yet the details preserved within the narrative suggest something much deeper. Before speaking the word Ephphatha, Jesus separates the man from the crowd. He removes him from noise, distraction, and external influence, creating a sacred moment of focus and transformation. This detail is profoundly important because genuine transformation often begins in silence rather than activity. Throughout history, spiritual teachers have emphasized that clarity emerges when the constant noise of the world is temporarily set aside. The man standing before Jesus may have suffered from physical limitations, but the symbolism reaches much further. Human beings frequently lose their ability to hear deeper truth beneath the endless voices competing for their attention. When Jesus finally speaks Ephphatha, he is not making a suggestion. In the original Aramaic, the word carries the force of an authoritative command. Something that had remained closed is now instructed to open. Something that had been restricted is now being released. Something that had remained inaccessible is suddenly becoming available. This pattern appears repeatedly throughout the ministry of Jesus. He continually confronts conditions that people have accepted as permanent. Blindness, fear, hopelessness, shame, limitation, and spiritual confusion are all challenged by his presence. The miracles reveal a consistent message. What appears fixed is not always final. What appears impossible is not always permanent. Many people listening today may not struggle with physical hearing, yet they experience another form of deafness. They cannot hear their own purpose clearly. They cannot hear intuition. They cannot hear hope beneath fear or possibility beneath doubt. Their lives become crowded with external voices until the deeper wisdom within them becomes difficult to recognize. The story of Ephphatha invites us to ask a powerful question. What if the greatest barriers in life are not external obstacles, but internal closures? What if healing begins the moment those hidden doors are finally opened? As we continue, we will discover why this ancient word may have been addressing far more than a physical condition. The deeper we examine Ephphatha, the more we begin to recognize that the miracle described in Scripture reflects a universal principle of transformation. Most people spend years attempting to change their lives by modifying external circumstances. They change environments, relationships, careers, routines, and habits, hoping that a different situation will finally produce a different experience. Yet many discover that the same frustrations continue appearing in new forms because the true barrier was never outside them. One of the recurring themes found throughout the teachings of Jesus is the relationship between inner transformation and outer reality. Again and again, he directs attention toward the condition of the heart, the mind, and the spirit. His message suggests that lasting change often begins internally before it becomes visible externally. This is precisely why the stories surrounding Ephphatha remain so relevant centuries later. A closed mind cannot easily receive wisdom. A closed heart struggles to experience genuine connection. A closed spirit often fails to recognize opportunities, guidance, or purpose, even when they appear directly in front of it. Over time, disappointment, rejection, fear, and uncertainty can create invisible walls that seem natural simply because they have existed for so long. Many people become so accustomed to these limitations that they stop questioning them altogether. They begin believing that anxiety is part of their identity. They assume confusion is normal. They accept discouragement as an unavoidable condition of life. Without realizing it, they adapt themselves to the very barriers they wish would disappear. This is what makes Ephphatha such a powerful spiritual symbol. The word represents a direct challenge to every limitation that claims authority over human potential. It confronts every belief that insists growth is impossible, healing is unavailable, or restoration belongs only to the past. The command itself carries the energy of movement, expansion, and release. When Jesus spoke, if he was not negotiating with the condition before him, he was declaring that closure no longer possessed the final word. The miracle demonstrates that what has remained closed can open, what has remained restricted can expand, and what has remained silent can begin speaking once again. Perhaps this is why the message continues to resonate today. Many people are not waiting for physical ears to open. They are waiting for purpose to return. They are waiting for confidence to awaken. They are waiting to reconnect with the part of themselves that remembers possibility. As we move forward, we will uncover why the ancient command Ephphatha may be speaking directly to those hidden areas of life. Even now, if you've made it this far, it was not by accident. Few are truly ready to go deeper, and that's perfectly fine. But if something in you is saying yes, the study guides are pinned, comment, and the best is yet to come in the next chapters. You'll discover what could change everything for you. One of the greatest misconceptions about healing is the belief that it only concerns the body. Yet throughout the teachings of Jesus, restoration consistently reaches deeper levels of human experience. Physical conditions may have attracted attention, but they often revealed invisible conditions that affected the heart, mind, and spirit. This is why the story of Ephphatha continues to resonate long after the original miracle took place. Many people today carry wounds that cannot be seen. They may appear successful, confident, and capable on the outside, while internally struggling with disappointment, fear, or a sense of disconnection. Years of difficult experiences can gradually create emotional barriers that become so familiar they are mistaken for permanent parts of identity. What begins as protection eventually becomes limitation. The command Ephphatha invites us to view these barriers differently. Rather than accepting closure as a final condition, it encourages us to see every closed area as something capable of transformation. A heart closed by betrayal can open again. A mind restricted by fear can expand again. A life that appears stagnant can begin moving in a completely new direction. This perspective helps explain why the ministry of Jesus inspired such hope among ordinary people. He did not simply address symptoms. He challenged assumptions. He demonstrated that human beings were capable of far more than their circumstances suggested. His message repeatedly pointed beyond limitation toward possibility. Perhaps this is the deeper invitation hidden within Ephphatha. It is not merely about opening ears. It is about opening awareness. It is about recognizing that restoration often begins the moment we stop defining ourselves by what has been closed and start believing that something greater is possible. When we look carefully at the life of Jesus, we notice a remarkable pattern. Again and again, he encountered people who believed their situation would never change. Some had lived with illness for years. Others carried burdens of guilt, fear, rejection, or hopelessness. Yet before circumstances changed externally, something often shifted internally. A new possibility entered their awareness. This is where the message of Ephphatha becomes deeply personal. Every person has areas of life where growth seems delayed or impossible. For some, it involves relationships that feel distant or broken. For others, it may be purpose, confidence, creativity, or spiritual direction. The challenge is not always the obstacle itself. Often the greater challenge is believing that the obstacle can move. The ancient word spoken by Jesus reminds us that closure is not necessarily permanence. A door that has remained shut for years may not be locked forever. Sometimes what appears blocked is simply waiting for the right moment of awakening. Throughout history, countless transformations began when individuals stopped focusing on limitation and started embracing possibility. This does not mean ignoring difficulties or pretending challenges do not exist. Rather, it means refusing to give those challenges ultimate authority over the future. The teachings of Jesus consistently point toward renewal, restoration, and growth. They encourage people to look beyond current conditions and recognize that divine possibilities often exist where human eyes see only barriers. The deeper lesson of Ephphatha is that opening begins before evidence appears. It begins with willingness. It begins with awareness. It begins with the decision to believe that what has remained closed does not have the final word. That simple shift may be the very doorway through which transformation enters. Thank you for getting this far. If the awakening of consciousness is hitting you hard, it's a sign that you're ready to go deeper. The study guides are waiting for you in the pinned comments. As we arrive at this point, the teaching of Ephphatha begins moving from understanding into experience. Throughout this journey, we have explored the possibility that the word spoken by Jesus was never limited to a single historical event. Instead, it reveals a timeless principle that continues to speak to every area of life where growth, healing, and restoration seem delayed. For a few moments, allow yourself to become aware of the areas in your own life that feel closed. There is no need to force an answer. Simply observe what comes to mind. It may be a relationship that has grown distant, a dream that feels forgotten, a confidence that has faded, or a sense of purpose that has become difficult to hear beneath the noise of daily life. Now imagine standing beside Jesus in that quiet moment described in the Gospel. The crowd is gone. The distractions are silent. There is no pressure to perform, no need to prove anything, and no expectation other than openness. In that stillness, the focus is no longer on the obstacle. The focus is on the possibility of transformation. Take a slow breath and reflect on this simple declaration. Ephphatha be opened, not through force, but through willingness. Not through struggle, but through awareness. Not through fear, but through trust. Allow the meaning of the word to settle deeply within you. Consider the possibility that healing often begins before visible evidence appears. Sometimes transformation starts the moment we stop identifying with limitation and start aligning ourselves with restoration. What has remained closed may not be finished. What appears delayed may not be denied. What seems silent may simply be waiting for the moment it can finally open. The ancient command spoken by Jesus continues to echo across centuries with the same invitation: remain open to what is possible. The story of Ephphatha ultimately points towards something larger than a single miracle. It reveals the consistent message found throughout the teachings of Jesus. Human beings are not meant to remain imprisoned by fear, limitation, discouragement, or spiritual blindness. Again and again, his words challenged people to move beyond what they believed was fixed and discover what was truly possible. Many who listen to this message may recognize areas of their own lives reflected in this ancient story. Perhaps there is a door that seems closed despite years of effort. Perhaps there is a part of you longing to hear direction more clearly, trust more deeply, or move forward with renewed confidence. The lesson of Ephphatha is not that every challenge disappears instantly. The lesson is that closure does not possess ultimate authority. The same spirit of restoration that inspired hope in those who encountered Jesus continues to inspire people today. The invitation remains unchanged. Stay open. Stay willing. Stay attentive to the possibilities that may already be unfolding beyond your current perspective. Sometimes the greatest transformations begin quietly, long before they become visible to the world. When you leave this message today, carry the meaning of Ephphatha with you. Let it remind you that awareness can open, purpose can awaken, and hope can return. What feels restricted today may become tomorrow's testimony. What feels silent today may become tomorrow's voice. I am glad you are here, and I mean that deeply. The fact that you are seeking this knowledge tells me everything about where you are in your journey. Study guides with deeper teachings are waiting for you in the pinned comment below. With gratitude for walking this path together. And before you leave, we would love to hear from you. If you felt a shift in your energy, gained a new insight, or experienced an inner awakening during this message, write the word restoration in the comments below. Your testimony may inspire and encourage many others who are also seeking light, knowledge, and renewal in their lives. Thank you for being here and for opening your hearts to this ancient wisdom. Your presence in this space is not accidental. It is part of your own journey of growth and transformation. It is an honor to walk this path of discovery alongside you. Until the next revelation, walk in peace, walk in freedom, walk in Shpak. We are just scratching the surface of this ancient power. Get ready, because in our next video, I will reveal even deeper Aramaic codes that unlock spiritual authority. Make sure you are subscribed and have notifications turned on so you don't miss this unfolding revelation.